Let's talk some chess. We have game 11 of the World Chess Championship. Jan Nepomniachtchi with the white pieces, Ding Liren with the black pieces. Jan is up, I believe, 5.5 to 4.5 points. He's going for 7.5 points, so he just needs 4 more draws to get there. Ding is obviously going to have to take some risks if he wants to get back in the match, but might not be the best idea this game because he is playing with the black pieces. So Jan opens us up with e4. We have e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and the Ruy Lopez bishop to b5, obviously threatening to take this knight and mess up black's pawn structure. For now, Ding ignores that threat and plays a6. Jan retreats the bishop to a4, and we have knight to e6, developing with a threat on this e-pawn. Jan ignores that threat and castles. This is the recommended move. If knight takes, then you can just take back on e5, and this looks better for white. Your king is, not what I wanted to do. This looks better for white. Your king is safe. Your knight is threatening this weak f7 square. The queen can jump into the game. So idea is this looks like a free pawn, but it's not a free pawn that black can take. And Ding, of course, realizes this and just brings the bishop to e7. Jan protects his pawn with d3, now adding some support to the central pawn, and Ding pushes b5. That comes with an attack on this bishop, forces the bishop to b3, where it actually is happy to be because it now has control of this nice long diagonal, including where black's king looks like it is about to castle. So Ding plays d6, Jan plays a3, anticipating any attacks of this bishop. He can just retreat it to a2, and indeed that is what happens. Ding plays knight to a5. This comes with an attack on the bishop, so the bishop is retreated to a2. Ding plays c5, so hoping probably to cut off this long diagonal from the bishop, and Jan develops his knight to c3. We have bishop to e6, challenging the range of this long squared, light squared bishop, and then we have Jan developing his final minor piece with bishop to g5, obviously comes with an attack on this very good defensive knight. Ding castles, and now both sides have castle king side. No pieces have been exchanged, so now it's up for the sides to try to fight in the center and control the game as best they can. Jan starts off by taking away this defensive knight on f6. Ding takes back with the bishop, and this allows Jan to bring his knight to d5. You couldn't really bring the knight to d5 before because there are just too many pieces eyeing it. I guess it might have worked, but it makes more sense now to put the knight on d5 now. You can't take it now with the bishop because then you just get bishop takes back. This was the idea. This is why you had to get rid of the defensive knight on f6. The bishop now is super strong on d5. You can't kick it out with a pawn. You can't kick it out with another light squared bishop. So Ding obviously does not want to get into this, and instead just plays g7, making space for the bishop, which is now attacked by the knight. Jan doesn't take the bishop, actually. Instead, he plays queen to d2. This adds some support to g5 and prepares knight to g5. The g5 square is currently attacked twice by the bishop and the queen, but Jan has it on pretty good authority that one of those attackers will retreat, and sure enough, the bishop moves to g7, and Jan is able to bring his knight to g5. It's now only attacked once by the black queen, and it's protected once by the white queen, so all good for that knight. Ding finally is able to push, I guess not finally, I don't know why I said finally. Ding is able to push c4. This cuts off the bishop from the defense of the knight, and now there really is a threat for Ding to mess up Jan's pawn structure, so Jan just removes it with knight to e6, and in the process actually messes up Ding's pawn structure. So Ding takes back, f takes on e7. This comes with an attack on this pesky knight, so Jan retreats it to e3, and immediately upon the retreat, Ding puts his bishop on h6. This obviously pins the knight to the queen, so the knight can no longer move. Jan isn't really worried about this pin, though. There's no black piece other than the bishop that can really join in on the attack on this knight. It can't pile in on this pin knight, so instead he just ignores it, maintains the pin, and plays a rook to d1, the rook on the a1 square to d1. And the idea here is this is preparing a barrage of the rook and the queen on this d file. There's a very good chance this d file opens up, and Jan wants to be prepared should it open up so that he can actually take some material and control that file. Ding plays rook to b8 for a very similar reason. There's a lot of tension going on with these pawns, and he wants the rook to be able to bust open the position if need be. And sorry, up to this point, there haven't been too many captures. Each side has all of their pawns. There's been a bishop exchange for a knight, but we're about to see not 5, not 10, but 15 moves in a row that are all captures. So appreciate all the pieces on the board because most of them are about to go away. And Jan kicks it off with d takes on c4. We have knight takes on c4. This knight, after floundering around on a5 for a lot of the game, is now very active on c4, obviously attacking the queen. You can't take it back with the knight because then the bishop would just take the queen. So instead, Jan takes with the bishop on c4. Pawn takes on c4, and now the move that Jan prepared with this rook to d1, you now have two pieces eyeing this d6 pawn. So queen takes on d6. Ding goes for the queen trade. Ding is happy here to take a queen trade and take the draw with the black pieces. Rook takes on d6, and now Ding wants to get rid of this knight because it's sort of clogging up. This bishop doesn't really have much to do. It's not going to be useful on any of these diagonals, so he's happy to trade the knight here and prevent the knight from taking this c4 pawn. So bishop takes the knight, pawn takes, we have rook takes on f1 with check, king takes back, and now all the pieces are gone except for rook and pawns, but it goes even further. Ding takes this pawn on b2. This was the idea behind putting the black rook on b8. Now when this file opens up, you can just infiltrate white's position. So rook takes on b2. Jan takes the pawn on e6, Ding takes the pawn on c2, and Jan ends the capture fest with rook takes on a6. And now Ding just plays rook to a2. So after all that, after the dust settles, we just have 2 rooks, 5 pawns for white, 4 pawns for black, and a relatively straightforward endgame. Maybe not straightforward for us, but straightforward for these super GMs in the World Chess Championship. So Jan actually abandons the defense of his a3 pawn. He's really interested in getting behind this dangerous pass pawn that's already on the 4th rank, and Ding is happy to take 2 pawns in exchange for that pass pawn. So Ding gobbles up the pawns on a3 and e3 while Jan takes the passed pawn. Jan brings his king into the game with f2. This comes with an attack on the rook, so Ding slides it all the way to a3. Then Jan just calmly brings his rook to c5. This attacks the e5 pawn, and there's no way to defend this. Your rook can't get in defense of it. Your king is obviously very far away, so instead Ding just plays a couple checks. He plays rook to a2, king to f3, rook to a3, pretty much forcing king to g4, and then a nice little maneuver here by Ding's rook back to a2, and now this is threatening the g2 pawn. So Jan brings his king to h3, protecting these 2 pawns, and now if Ding decides to play another check, you just block with the pawn. But Ding, of course, doesn't do that. He brings his rook to e2, getting behind this soon-to-be passed pawn on e4. Jan finally takes the pawn on e5, and now Ding brings his rook into the game, his king into the game with king to f7, and Jan improves the position of his own king with g3. Now we have Ding's king walking even more up the board with king to f6. This obviously comes with an attack on the rook, so Jan brings his rook to e8, and now we have a couple of repetitions. We have king to f7, again attacking the rook, and here, you could bring the rook to h8 and threaten to take this h7 pawn, but then you're just going to get Ding taking the pawn on e4, and even after rook takes, this is still a drawn position. White is up a pawn, but you're not going to be able to promote your pawn with how black's pieces are arrayed, and both Jan and Ding know this. So instead of going for rook to h8, Jan just retreats his rook to e5. We have king to f6, rook to e8, king to f7, rook to e5, and then there was kind of a funny moment in the game. I don't know exactly what the rule was, but they couldn't, they needed the arbiter to declare that it was a draw by repetitions. They had to wait for a couple of minutes or a minute or so to get the arbiter in the room to actually say, okay, this is a draw. And game 11 of the World Chess Championship ended with a draw. Jan now has 6 points, Ding has 5 points, and hopefully we'll see some fireworks in the future games as Ding really needs a win to get back in the match. So shortest game of the match, not too much going on other than those 15 captures in a row, which were very fun. But definitely stay tuned. We'll definitely see some more exciting games before the match is out. Thanks for watching. Drop a like and a subscribe, and we'll see you next time.